Hello and welcome. I'm Maya. So I've been watching a lot of video essays recently. I don't know if you've heard about that. They're kind of dominating YouTube right now. I really have been enjoying them a lot. It's basically just when one person goes really in depth about one specific topic, like a normal essay, but in video form. So I've been really wanting to make one of those, and I've been trying to brainstorm, and the only thing that I felt prepared to talk about at length without any formal preparation was the TV show Anne with an E. If you've been around my channel for a long time, or just know me in real life, or have crossed paths with me in real life, you know how much Anne with an E means to me. So I'm gonna be talking about why you, if you have not heard of it, should watch Anne with an E. The first thing I want to get out of the way, because you guys are gonna all call me fake, is that I have not read Anne of Green Gables. I have also not watched the Anne of Green Gables movies. I know. But I'd like you all to know that I'm not talking about Anne with an E in comparison to Anne of Green Gables. I think I know enough about Anne of Green Gables to give a fair discussion on Anne with an E. But by all means, go read the books, go watch the movies, like I should be doing right now. I wanted to get that out of the way. I promise I'm gonna read the books and watch the movies. But for now, Anne with an E. First of all, I'd like to talk about Anne with an E as a whole and what it's doing for Canada. If you don't know, I live in Canada. And it's going to be hard to talk about this part without Anne of Green Gables, so I'm gonna try. But we all know that cinema culture is a big part of the USA, right? Like Hollywood, Western movies, they have built a lot of the culture that Americans have today. But Canada doesn't really have that, because Canada is a super young country, and movies just aren't really as big in Canada. But Anne of Green Gables kind of did that for Canadian culture. It's a big part of Canadian history, but Anne with an E kind of adds more truth to that. It adds an artistic spin on culturally significant parts of Anne of Green Gables that weren't really discussed in the books, I think, because I haven't read them. A lot of the societal topics that are discussed in Anne with an E, as I understand it, weren't really discussed in Anne of Green Gables. There is a lot of really accurate portrayal of racism that was a really big part of life in the time period that Anne of Green Gables takes place in. But Anne with an E really, I think, shows that in its full essence. Also, a major part of Anne with an E, one of the main plot points of every episode almost, is the rise in feminism and women's rights. The main character, Anne, she's an activist. She did a lot for the characters and really brought light to the problems that were happening during that time period. Just so you know, it takes place in the 1890s. Something else that I really appreciate Anne with an E did was delve into trauma and PTSD a little bit with Anne, because she had a really hard time in her childhood because she was orphaned, and she spent a lot of time being sort of passed around from adoptive families, and she spent most of her time at the orphanage. Especially in the first season, you see that a lot. I don't know, but it seems pretty accurate and a good representation of what those kind of experiences can do to a kid. And this part, especially in the third season, there's a lot of touching on sexual abuse, and I think that's really important because it's not talked about a lot in TV shows that much. That kind of ties into the women's rights that are such a prominent part of Anne with an E. There's also a lot of representation and added characters that weren't in Anne of Green Gables. If I am correct, Cole and Sebastian and Coquette, these are all characters that sort of added more dimension to the TV show with more LGBTQ plus representation, indigenous representation, more racial representation, and things like that. A quick intermission from the future because I forgot to mention the importance of indigenous representation in the show. A substantial part of Anne with an E's story is about residential schools, which is an incredibly massive part of Canadian history that was sort of hidden and forgotten for a long time. This is significant because Anne with an E is one of the only TV shows or even movies that begins to depict the harassment and torture that these Indigenous children had to endure at the residential schools without anybody knowing about it. Anyway, back to the present. And all of this is important to me because with the rise of streaming services, we all know that people don't really go to theaters anymore. So that leads to two things. More blockbuster movies to get people into theaters and more binge-worthy TV shows that can be found on streaming services as like a form of advertising so that people will start using specific streaming services. So that makes TV shows kind of rare to see really good quality. They're all made specifically for entertainment, and obviously I'm not saying that Anne with an E isn't entertaining, because it is, but I think it's kind of rare to see more artistic cinematography in TV shows recently. And by this, I don't necessarily mean stylized, because there's definitely stylized cinematography, but not necessarily for the purpose of art. And there's definitely movies and TV shows that are way more artistic and meaningful in the directing than Anne with an E, but the combination of the quality of the cinematography combined with this meaningful story just means a lot to me. It also just, I've always wanted to go to Prince Edward Island, and I know that Anne with an E isn't mostly filmed in Prince Edward Island. Like, I think a lot of the scenes were filmed in Saskatchewan, but it just portrays Prince Edward Island so well. It looks so beautiful, and it's just extremely aesthetically pleasing, and I love that about it. And moving on to acting, like, the acting is incredible. I don't understand how most of these actors didn't move on to bigger roles and like become total movie stars. Like Amy Beth McNulty, who plays Anne, she has such raw emotion, and her ability to do a long rambling dialogue is so impressive. And I think that this is kind of refreshing because TV shows a lot of the time, like, the acting isn't very special? I don't know, like a lot of Netflix TV shows aimed at like teenagers, I don't know, like Summer I Turned Pretty, guys. Now, I know that the people in my life are kind of tired of hearing me talk about Anne with an E, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm making this video, so I can just get all of my thoughts out. And one person, you know who you are, thinks that Amy Beth's acting isn't very realistic, but the thing is that I think it portrays the character's like eccentricity really well. A good example of this kind of acting would be like Wonka with Timothée Chalamet, because we all know that Timothée Chalamet is one of the best actors of his generation. But with Wonka, some people thought it was unrealistic, but that's just how the character is supposed to be played. Same with like Johnny Depp. We think Johnny Depp did a good job, right? But Timothée Chalamet sort of is a new style for the age group of people watching his movies. So it seems over-exaggerated, but that's how it's supposed to be because people like that exist, and he's just playing that role well. And I think the same can be seen with Anne. I think that the way that Anne is also a really unrealistic result of the experiences she's had and why she has become the way that she is. Now for relationships. Relationships are such a big part of Anne with an E. Like, relationships of all kinds, including between friends, families, colleagues, classmates, lovers. a really beautifully created and realistic social hierarchy that existed during that time period, while also maintaining a natural and entertaining flow to pretty much all of the interactions. This can be credited back to the script writing. I love this script writer. Scriptwriter Moira Walley-Beckett. She was also the producer for Anne with an E. She did an incredible job. Everything about the show is so detailed and well thought out and complex, and everything just worked together so well. I love Moira Walley-Beckett. Like, some of her other work includes writing and producing episodes of Breaking Bad, and apparently starting up a TV show for the recently popular book series Fourth Wing. I only know her from Anne with an E, but it's really good, okay? And now for Anne and Gilbert, because this romance and this whole story, obviously, like, it's all credited to Anne of Green Gables and Louisa May Alcott. But we just need to appreciate this timeless classic story, okay? Because this is a wholesome, beautifully written romance that has been recreated like at least 12 times or something. And I just think that the cast for Anne with an E just so perfectly fit into this specific part of the story with the romance between Anne and Gilbert. You're going to understand when you watch this show. Now, this is my first video essay, and my main points were kind of short because I was not prepared for this. But to summarize, the reasons why you need to watch Anne with an E are: 1, if you are Canadian, this is a massive part of your culture, and as well as reading the books and watching the movies, you need to watch the show because it adds so much truth into the original that just wasn't seen at all. It's basically a history lesson in the form of an extremely artistic, aesthetically pleasing, and entertaining form of media. It's going to be better for your brain than just doom scrolling on the internet. You don't really have an excuse. 2, the quality is just rare at this point in a TV show, and it should be witnessed. I think that the quality of this show in all aspects was just so touching to me, and I love it, and I just want you to witness this too. 3, I am very hopeful and delusional because this show was canceled in 2019 due to a low watch rate. I have hope that a major rise in fan base population could happen. Then someday that could absolutely help to create some kind of renewal or reboot of the show. 4, is it 5? 4. Even if it's not possible at all that the show could ever get renewed or rebooted or anything like that, I hope that you're going to want to watch this because it's worth witnessing, it's worth consuming. Just in itself as an art piece. Like, you don't really have a reason to read a book or look at a painting, but you do because it touches some kind of part of you because it was created by a human and you can relate to that emotion. Art is created by the artist because it means something to them, but it's also consumed by the consumer because it adds something to their life. It's a visual representation of something within a person. And for me, it's just a representation of a big part of me. And I hope that you can witness that too. Anyway, thank you for watching. I was not planning on doing this about an hour ago, but I just thought of it when I was watching a video and I was talking to a friend and I was saying what's something I talk about a lot, and obviously it was Anne with an E. So she said, why don't you talk about that? I really enjoyed this. If you enjoyed the video and have a topic that you'd like to hear me talk about, then comment it down below and maybe I'll do some research. I'll actually be prepared next time and I'll go in depth about a specific thing. If you know me, you know that it takes me a long time to edit a video. With these video essays, I bet I could edit them a lot faster so I could get them out more. If that's at all enticing to you? I'm just rambling at this point. If you watch the show and you like it, please sign the renewal petition, which is online. I will leave the link down below. Sign it, sign it, sign it, sign it, sign it, sign it with multiple email addresses. And stay tuned. Bye!